NBC News launched an internal investigation, into why Today's Show broadcast an edited version of the 911 call placed by George Zimmerman the night he shot and killed Trayvon Martin. Both Today and MSNBC, broadcast an edited version of the call, which makes Zimmerman sound as if he were engaged in racial profiling. The call that they aired went like this. Zimmerman said, "This guy looks like he's up to no good. He looks black." Today didn't inform its audience that it had edited out the middle of the 911 call, which in reality went like this. He said, "This guy looks like he's up to no good or on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about." The 911 operator then said, "Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?" Zimmerman said he looks black.
Not as bad as what happened to me on The Celebrity Apprentice in terms of the editing hatchet job. But yes, I would talk about this all the time. Mm-hmm. The news is just turning into a soap opera, and it's as much reality as reality shows is. There's a narrative. And we never stop with we're such a racist culture. And it's such a great news story about what a racist culture we are. The thing that's funny about the whole racist culture thing is we're going on year number 3.5 of our first black president, and we've all stepped up the whole racist culture thing. It's like since Barack Obama got into office, is it you feel like everyone's like kicked into overdrive with we have a black president. This topic is going to sort of go away. Everyone's got to kick it up. There's a weird compensation, like somehow we're losing a grip on our racist culture complaint.
The thing that's tough about this one is that I think they're very well may have been a racial component to it.
Of course there is.
So the fact that they're, editing this out and then not being entirely accurate, and then it looks like they're trying to create a narrative, it's a shame because the narrative might already be there.
Yes,
every day it changes.
Well, first off, do they have an agenda? Obviously they have an agenda. You always know the agenda because you can see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So yes, they have an agenda. We never stop beating ourselves up about this. We can't let it go. We just can't let it go. And I do think ever since we got our first black president, the folks who can't let it go have fucking stepped it up. There is a racial element to this. Because if that was a kid who was of a different nationality, who didn't commit a disproportionate amount of crime, the guy wouldn't be as nervous. It's the same thing with cab drivers. People, black guys don't get picked up in New York City. Who's driving the cabs? A bunch of blue-eyed guys whose parents were from Scotland? No, they're a bunch of guys from countries all over the world. They're not even white people, if you really do the math on the guys who are driving the hacks, but they're not picking up black people. So that's a racist problem. And who? That's whitey being racist? Their story gets fucked up when the guy becomes something other than white, so they try to take the Hispanic guy. And so what the news does here is they go, first off, let's get rid of the part where the dispatcher asks what the nationality is. We'll just tack black on to looks like he's up to no good. That'll help the narrative. The second part is we'll take this guy who's probably more Hispanic than he is white or Anglo, and we'll get rid of that part and we'll make him a white guy. So that'll fit the narrative. Of course you're painting a picture, you have a story, you have a narrative, and it's that we're racist. The bottom line is,
I think this guy was.
Well, no.
But he wasn't racist enough. It was like,
he wasn't racist enough.
Like when we write a screenplay, it's like, you need to be clear that he's the villain. You know, it's like, okay, he's racist here, but it's a little wishy-washy. Let's change his last name from Menendez to Zimmerman. That just sounds, whatever. Like,
people hate ambiguity, so they were taking out some of the ambiguity.
He's not racist enough. And yes, so here's the question, though. When the cab driver who's from a foreign land does not pick up the black guy because there's a disproportionate amount of black guys involved with violence and in the criminal justice system and in the penal system, and picks up a white guy instead, is he racist?
Brian.
Is he racist? Is that a racist act? And then if you went to
it is. It is. Even if you can understand why he might be making those decisions, that is a racist act, because the black guy that he's not picking up, he has no reason, or he doesn't know that particular black guy is going to do something.
That's the point. He's basing it on the odds. And if you went to that guy's country,
let's say he only picked up women, he refused to pick up men. Is that sexist?
That's another question. Here's another point. all this racism, it's always black men, but it doesn't seem to be against black women per se. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Why isn't it? Why?
Because
if you're
more
a racist,
crime is committed by men than women.
Well, there's
I'm
your,
saying is that
there's your
sexist.
answer.
Can he refuse to pick up men?
If I was driving a cab, I would want to pick up women more than men. If it was the wrong side of the tracks, especially late night, yes, I would.
Doesn't matter what race.
I would work. Here's what I would do. I would work danger of being shot in the back of the head and work down to the lowest common denominator, which is Asian woman. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you'd be working
but we're talking about shooting someone, not picking up someone in a cab.
All right, but is that act racist? Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's also tape of him saying fucking COONS. And
really?
Yeah.
say
But some people say okay.
If you're quoting someone.
Yeah,
but
you
some
can quote
people
them.
not with someone who's picking up drops.
Well,
but some
Just say it
people
clearly and loudly into the microphone.
there's some question. I think there are people who feel like no, he didn't say that. He said fucking goons, and it was a term of endearment. That's what someone said that he said. But if you hear the tape, then it does not sound at all like he said fucking goons.
Well, look, whether he's a racist or not, and by the way,
and he had called 56 times to report crime,
he's
shifty
a
black
crazy man,
people.
yeah.
He had it out for them.
Yes, an issue, but it still doesn't mean that the news isn't taking the story and running with it.
True.
They're not getting enough story. And if you went to another country and drove a cab and somebody told you there's this nationality and that nationality and this nationality does more shooting of cab drivers, what would you do if you're driving the cab?
I'd only pick up the pretty people.
That's what I'm saying.
The network completed its investigation and found an error and issued an apology. And here is that statement. During our investigation, it became evident that there was an error made in the production process that we deeply regret. We will be taking the necessary steps to prevent this from happening in the future, and we apologize to our viewers.
And how about Spike Lee being an error? How about him being a racist?
Yeah, so
he's a fucking racist. Spike Lee is a racist.
You know about this. He retweeted a tweet that revealed the address of the
wrong address.
Right, the wrong George Zimmerman's parents. He financially settled with them.
I love that story.
But we don't know how much.
I hope the guy bought a Klan robe and had some Daisy Dukes with that. And look, here's the point. We never stop with this dialogue. Okay, here's the deal. There are racists in this country. There are racists. And then there's cab drivers who basically don't want to get shot and are picking their least likely folks in order. And I'm sure those guys pick up more women or would like or prefer to pick up a woman over a man, just like we all would. I always break it down to this.
The driver's black, though. I'm not getting in that cab.
He'll shoot you in the rear view. Bounce it right off. No, it's always like this. And here's how we work as human beings. We see breeds of dogs, and certain breeds of dogs tend to bite, and certain breeds don't. But that doesn't mean that there's not bad and good within each breed.
We better change the subject.
You just play the odds when you see it. And when you see black teens, your brain does a little like,
It's a difference between racism and prejudice. Like, everybody's prejudiced. Everybody has prejudice. Like, racism is more of an active thing. It's one thing to like go and
I would argue that George Zimmerman.
Yeah, he was running after.
It's a little
him.
more racist than by those definitions. It seems.
But in Adams, what Adam's talking about here, it's actually just like it's innate. You can't even stop it. It's just fear. It's just like you see stuff on the news, you hear stories from people, and you feel like, I'm in a dangerous neighborhood, and a black guy's coming up to me. I'm nervous. That's not being racist. That may be being prejudiced, and you can't help it, because of the society you live in and the world we live in. But
yeah, it's an uncomfortable truth.
Well, it is, and the reality is we need to address it, and the dialogue should be, look, Zimmerman, I'm sure Zimmerman's a racist. I'm not defending him. It's the news saying, here's an opportunity to have a dialogue. Why are people who are not formally racist and who like to think of ourselves as, not me actually, but fair, good-minded people. Why do we get nervous when we see a black 17-year-old with the hoodie on walking at us down the street? Why do we feel freaked out by that? You're not racist, but you might have those feelings. Why should you have those feelings? No, I do.
I told you in college that I watched my friend get held up at a gas station by this large black man who was holding a meat cleaver, and I was afraid of black people.
That was George Wallace. but
I would